One. Hello, everyone. I am Jane Rachel, and I am here with a good friend, Kathleen Moran, someone I'm actually very lucky to call a friend. She was a nurse for over 25 years, so helping other people while she was overcoming her own health issues with fibromyalgia. She is now retired from nursing, but she is still helping others as both an advocate for victims of human trafficking, and that's how we originally met. And she also helps senior citizens by giving health chats and teaching them tips on how to stay healthy. So Kathy, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. And I do want to tell everyone that Kathy was someone when I first got very sick a few years ago, I turned to for support and really was someone who was able to inspire me, and her story helped me get through what I was going through. So you told me, and I think that was the first time I ever even knew that you had any health issues. When I told you, I think what happens a lot is when someone tells them your story of what you're going through, someone then opens up that they went through something similar. So that was the first time I heard about your plight with fibromyalgia. But maybe just want to tell us a little bit about like when you first started noticing something was wrong, and how did you come to find out it was fibromyalgia?
Well, Jane, first I just want to say thanks for inviting me to share my story with you and your audience, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
About 7 or 8 years ago, I started noticing that I was having generalized pain, and what I did was I attributed it to like having arthritis, because I do have osteoarthritis and psoriatic arthritis, which is autoimmune disease. Yep. So I basically attributed it to that. But then I started getting like other symptoms where I was not able to sleep at night because I was having pain throughout my whole body. And so I started to go to a rheumatologist because I was thinking, okay, let me go to a rheumatologist. It's probably arthritis. So. Yep.
I've been to many rheumatologists. Some more some more helpful than others. So what did the rheumatologist say?
Well, at first the rheumatologist was treating me for psoriatic arthritis. So because that's what we thought it was. Yeah. So he started me on methotrexate, which I was not tolerating at all well. Methotrexate is a form. It's a form of chemo. Actually, it's a DNA, or I don't know if it's an RNA or a DNA alterer. But anyway, I was not tolerating that well. I was really exhausted all the time. Couldn't function, and on top of what I didn't know was the fibromyalgia, I was just becoming really incapacitated. So, but anyway, we tried a number of things. We tried anti-inflammatories, Advil and Tylenol, and really just nothing seemed to be working. Nothing seemed to be touching the pain, and I was getting more and more lethargic, of course, and I was still practicing nursing at the time. I was actually going into people's homes and doing hospice, delivering hospice care.
Oh, wow.
So I was really getting concerned that I was not doing my job correctly then. So that was adding another layer of stress to me, because I felt like I kept questioning, did I forget to do that? Did I do that correctly? Because I was not getting the proper rest.
And I just know that pain makes it hard to sleep. So there's that pain sleep cycle. So is that what you were experiencing, that you couldn't sleep?
Exactly, Jane, exactly what I was experiencing, because you're in so much pain that you rest, maybe your body rests for like an hour, but then all of a sudden you're almost jolted awake by the pain. So, and then it takes, again, you're in a cycle, then you try to get back to sleep. And by the time you could sleep, you got to get up and go. So you never really, your body, your mind, nothing is really rested. So, and that went on for about 3 years.
Wow. And you were nurse the whole time? Because nurses, I mean, that's emotionally demanding, right? And also you're on your feet. So how did you manage that for 3 years?
Not very well. And I didn't realize how unwell I was. I didn't realize because, of course, nobody wants to think, oh, wow, I started to think that this is in my head. Maybe I don't feel this. Maybe this is, because the doctor was trying so hard to manage me like that. And then finally one day I went in, and I think I was I was getting despondent actually at that point, because you're just in so much pain, and I felt like I wasn't doing my job, and whatever. I actually had to stop my job because I really that was stressing me out so much.
Yep.
So, but I went in one day to the doctor, and he had tried yet another treatment, and I'm not sure exactly what it was at that time. And he goes, well, tell me how you feel. I said, my whole body hurts from head to toe. Everything hurts, everything. And that's when he figured out it was fibromyalgia.
Just in case other people are watching have the same thing, like there's different types of pain. So just like was it a sharp pain? Was it an ache? Was it not? Can you just describe it a little bit?
It was like an ache, but it felt like, when your nerves, like the end of your nerves were just kind of shooting. Now, I don't know if anybody's heard of neuropathy, but it felt like the end.
Yeah.
It felt like the end of the nerves were just shooting all the time, but then it was going into your muscles as an ache. So it was shooting and then going into your muscles as an ache. Wow. And then if you have arthritis on top of it, my knee, my joints then were like, they were on overload. They were like, stop it. So, so that's basically what it felt like, unrelentingly. And then, there was a couple of other stressors that were going on in my life at the time. And that, of course, contributed to a lot of things too, because I couldn't work full time. I was doing per diem because I couldn't concentrate, because it was a perpetual thing. So I was constantly worried about money. That was a stress. Then my dad was getting sicker and sicker, so he was getting ready to pass away. And so all of these things were simultaneously going on and contributing to the stress, which again, firing. Now, I'm just going to say one thing, which I realized recently, which, for anybody that, yourself, you probably know this too, Jane, but at somewhere across your life, you realize there was something. And I realized when I was a kid and different times during my life, it would hurt to be touched. So did you experience that, Jane?
I personally did not, but family members who do have fibromyalgia, absolutely. So for me, my pain is, it's more, it's a different type of pain. And sometimes actually massage feels really good. But I have, like my mother, I think she has fibromyalgia. You touch her, extreme pain. And other family members too. So, and I heard that about fibromyalgia, just touching you feels really painful.
It's painful. It's painful. And I remember actually, even in my 20s and at different times in my life, I remember that if I was touched, it would be painful. So I think it was going on, that disease was going on underlying probably most of my life, whether I was born with it or whatever, I don't know, but
yeah, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm wondering, so I was funny because I did another interview recently where we all sort of figured out, like a light went on, that our lives got a lot, although we all had different diseases, our lives got a lot easier when we got a name. Did you find that to be true? Like when you found out that it was fibromyalgia, did that help?
It definitely legitimized things. Like you feel like you're the illegitimate child until that diagnosis comes up. And And I remember because I actually had to go out on disability, which was another thing. But
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the because I had to go to a trial, and not a trial, but you had to go to court and
Yep.
sit in front of a judge and be
Yep.
questioned by an occupational health and a
Yep.
doctor. And I remember at that whatever point sitting in front of the judge, and I had a lawyer with me, and it occurred to me my professional life was over.
Wow.
I'm never going to be able to do what I had done.
Wow.
I realized that I may be living with this for the rest of my life, and that I may have just this unrelenting pain the rest of my life. And all I did through the whole appearance in front of the judge was cry, because it was at that moment, it was
Yeah.
at that given moment that I understood my whole life now is going to be so drastically changed. And up until that point, I still was kind of trying to spin the wheels of how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And
Yeah.
it was, how am I going to do it? Because nobody wants to be going to disability.
Nope.
Nobody wants to do that. So
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly what I went through 3 years ago. I was like, well, my career has always been very important to me. And I'm like, will I ever, be able to work at the same level again? Well, and it's this, so you're dealing A, with the pain, but then you're also dealing with like B, what has become of my life and what will it be? So I take it they granted the disability. I hope the judge was nice.
Oh yeah, well, thank God I did get the disability, thank God. And it was, and it was a blessing, because that allowed me to go on my journey to healing. Because I don't think if I hadn't gotten it, I would not have been able to go on that journey to heal. And everybody as you know, once you get a name for something, then you can move on with it and see what's going to be the best way for you to heal, because everybody's path is probably slightly different. You can do generalizations, you can whatever, but at the end of the day, everybody's path is a little bit different. So
Absolutely.
that, for anybody out there that's struggling with these autoimmune diseases, please, don't give up and just keep going. You're going to find what's going to be most helpful to you.
So you said those exact words to me, not in an interview, but as a friend 2 years ago when I really thought my life was over. So thank you, because while I'm not 100% better, I'm so much better. And when you don't even know this, but when I had moments, those first 2 years, I would just, there'd be moments where I would just break down, devastated, in tears. And I remember what I said, Kathy says it's going to be okay. And she said she felt like this and she got over it. So that is one of the things I'm hoping to do with this website, is for other people to see that. So let's talk a little bit about that healing journey. Once you got that name, what were you able to do to make your life more livable?
What I started to do was actually I started looking into my diet, because I said I have to be able to control some things here. I started looking into my diet and seeing what causes inflammation, and what I could eliminate, what I could modify, what, again, I think the ABCs of everything as well, like what stress level, like who am I even around personally in my personal life that is adding to my stress, not in a good way, because we all have stress with families, we know that, but what is actually getting into my body, and am I allowing to get into my body? So if I was allowing something to get into my body, and if it was somebody that was a little bit toxic or whatever, I can maybe revisit you, but I can't do this right now, because I have to, this is my journey now. This is my priority. I have to heal, because
But
We
is
have to find what that is, you know? So,
but I mean, that's easier said than done, like especially with family. And is everyone, you know how much your pain you are in, but not everybody around you does. So are they accepting of your need to do that, or how do you handle that when they're not?
well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't handle it very well.
Neither did
But I think now, since I'm on the other, a little bit on the other side of it now, I could look back and say I didn't really handle it well. But you know what? Your body is an amazing mechanism, though. It always tells you what you know. You can actually have to start mentally be conscious of this. If you're around certain people and your body starts to hurt more, or you're feeling like you're getting really anxious, that right there tells you this, whatever reason. It's not that, it's not even that it's a bad person or nah, or you know, any of those things. It's just your reaction to that individual or whatever
Yeah.
is detrimental to you. So whatever you need to do, whether it's changing your thinking, which is a lot of things, you have to just change your thinking about things.
Yeah.
Or you have to remove yourself, or it could be simultaneously everything. You remove yourself, figure out what it is that's triggering you, try to
Yeah.
back away from it, and get a handle on that, get a handle on yourself, basically, because you're never going to get a handle on somebody that's toxic. They're always going to be who they
Yeah.
are. So, and
Exactly. Very true.
so get a handle on what it is that triggers you, because it's your health, and just you have to be almost laser focused on this, and it's very difficult to do, because especially if you're a person that you're used to doing, you're used to being, you're used to whatever, figuring out, and it's extremely difficult. But this is your health. You have to wake up every day with the mantra, this is my health, you know.
This is my
whatever your mantra is, you know, whatever your mantra is.
But it's, you and I are both in helping professions. We're both helpers. It's really hard to be like, focus on me now. And it's just really difficult. What about, oh, go ahead. Do you have a thought about that?
I totally agree. I totally agree. It's very, very, but the thinking has to be, okay. And people say this is selfish or whatever else. I don't buy into it. You have to think, if you were giving advice to somebody like you that was in that situation, what advice would you give them? You would not.
100%.
That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I would 100% say focus on your health now. You know what? The work will get done, even if it's like the important work that we do, caring for other people. Yeah. Someone else will do it. It will get done. Right now, you're of no help to anyone until you can help yourself.
That's right. So you have to think the same advice you would give to somebody, you're going to take it yourself. You're absolutely you're going to be your own best friend. You know, I went to this, I went to a friend of mine many, many years ago, and he gave me a little something to do. And he said, link your hands and say to yourself, I am my own best friend.
I am my own best friend.
That's exactly it. And I'm going to give the advice, and I'm going to take the advice that I would give to my own best friend. So
I am my own best friend, and I'm going to take the advice that I would give to my own best friend.
That's right.
It was so funny in that group conversation I had the other day. That was another thing that we all like, being kind to yourself. Is like, we all were type A people, all really ambitious. And sometimes, your health you need to slow down a little bit. But I'm really interested in, you said changes to diet. Was it like getting rid of sugar? What type of thing?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of processed food. I mean, that's a constant work in action, but I got rid of quite a bit of that. I started to again, more fruits and vegetables, less. I was never really I worked in cardiac, so I understood I didn't eat a lot of meat, and so that wasn't really an issue. Although, you know, actually though, I did like chicken and whatever, but I mean, talking about red meat, I should
Yeah.
say. And then, you know, again, getting omegas, like a lot of fish is great.
Yeah.
Fish is great stuff. Um, so I really started to look at it like, this is part of the medicine I need to take to heal my body. And that's the way I started to look at whatever I put into my mouth, basically, actually. So I just started to say, this is part of my healing of what I need to do for myself. And then, of course, I always tried to, my whole life, I've tried to do this. I've tried to just keep walking and ambulating. Even on my worst days, I would try, which that's not always the smartest thing. Now, I'll be honest with you, Jane,
Yeah.
that's not the smartest thing, because sometimes your body just says, just rest. Don't worry about it. You don't push yourself, because sometimes pushing yourself
Yeah.
could actually do more injury than good. So,
Yeah.
but you have to work through that again too. You have to be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm having this pain. I need to stop. I need to slow down. I need to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
I started meditating.
Very
I
helpful.
try to do it like a couple of times a week. Not always great about it, but I started to do that.
What about acupuncture?
Yes, I went. That was actually the transition for me. And I'll be honest, like we were talking before about somebody acknowledging what you have. My acupuncturist, part of my healing was that she was the first person that's seen, physically, emotionally, and mentally seen, how despondent I was. And she acknowledged it, and she said, we're going to get you out of this. We're going to get you out of this. She goes, it's going to take a while, but we're going to get you out of this. And she gave me some broths to eat and some other things. Again, they were food-based things to do for myself. So I attribute a lot of my healing, not only psychologically, for her to acknowledge exactly what I had and acknowledge how my whole body, my mind, my spirit, everything was affected by it, but also work very rigorously on healing and listening. And listening. That was like the key to me. Your healthcare person, whoever that is, whatever journey you're on,
Yeah.
if that person is truly listening to you, listening, you'll get this solved. You'll get it solved. It may take a while, and nobody guarantees you're not going to have bad days. You're going to have bad days. And
Yeah.
I still have bad days today, but the bad days are a lot less than they were. And my good days are more. So
let's talk about that. When did you notice you were feeling better? How long did it take? What did that look like?
it took roughly, I think, significantly better. It took me about a year and a half. It took me about a year and a half. And then I think the last 2.5 years, I felt like, wow, I'm about 75%.
Wow.
Which I feel is great considering my age. Considering my age, I'm going to be 60. So I feel like for my age, I'm happy. I'm happy. You know,
you look great, and you're actually one of the more like enthusiastic and go-getting people I know. You just were on a cross-country trip where you drove all across the country, so that's incredible. And I'm sure you couldn't do that while you were struggling.
Oh my goodness, no, there's no way. And I cried when I reached Yellowstone, because I said, I never thought a year and a half ago I would ever be able to do this. I never thought in my wildest dreams. I said, so I cried. I absolutely cried. And I thanked everybody that got me there, because nobody does this on their own. Nobody. No. And so but you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And sometimes it's just that one person that says, we hear you, we see you.
Yeah.
We see you. We know what's going on.
We had this moment before this interview started where we were both just in Yellowstone and we didn't know it separately. And I have not been able to, I mean, I've worn nothing but sneakers for 3 years and I have not been able to really walk. And I did a hike in Yellowstone. And it's like, yes. And like, that is, not that I wish what either one of us went through on anyone, but I will say there is like that joy that I had at that end of that walk on Yellowstone. And if I had gone on this walk 5 years ago before this most recent health issue, like it would have been like, oh yeah, this was nice. I saw some geysers, I saw a bison, that's great. But that utter joy, that comes from not taking things for granted anymore. I cried at the end of my walk on Yellowstone too. Oh my God, I wish we were in person because and there wasn't COVID, because I would love to give you a hug right now because that's just such a powerful moment for both of us.
Well, it's so funny that it both occurred in Yellowstone, though.
Yes.
It was like,
Yes.
I made it. I made it. That mountain. I'm on the top of it now. I'm on the top.
Yeah.
So
I want to show you. I got. I'm sorry. This is all supposed to be about you, but I got 10,000 steps, and like 2 years ago, I couldn't walk across my apartment. So
isn't that amazing? It's absolutely, to me, I think, my spiritual side says it's a miracle. Like I kept saying, it's a miracle.
Oh my God.
People, I think, that have been through like a lot of trials and tribulations in their life, I understood it at that moment. I said, wow, if I feel like this after what I've been through, which, I'm not lessening anything about what the journey I took, but I can't imagine, it's just elation. It's total elation. And so
elation.
Yeah, and total so you see, Jane, though, I like we're talking, did we ever think that there were points during our journey that it was like, are we ever going to be just well enough to just function for a day, just function, so
Yeah.
when you get from there and you're taking your 10,000 steps and you're like, yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I still want to kind of just end right here because it's so happy, but I would like to ask if if you have any advice for someone who was in your space like the way you were 7 years ago, someone who's feeling that right now, their whole body hurts, they don't know why. What advice do you have for them?
Take a small step, and whether that's a step looking at your diet, it's a step looking at the stress that's around you and saying, I'm not going to accept that stress into my body, or whether that's, I'm not happy with the doctor or the physician that I'm with right now. I feel like I'm not being listened to. I feel like if that's a step you need to take to change your doctor, if it's a step to just get on, there's plenty of helplines too to get on sometimes to just talk to people.
Yeah.
Then do that. Whatever step it is, just take one little step, because you'll notice that one step will always lead you to another, into another, and there's always somebody there that understands. There really is. There's somebody there.
I would only add, though, because this is something that always threw me, it's okay to have bad days, because what would happen to me is I would take a few steps forward and then I would have a bad day and I'd be hysterical all over again, being like, oh my God, so just healing, no matter what, we have different diseases, but no matter what it is, it's never linear. Right.
I thank you so much for mentioning that, Jane, because there are going to be days that you're going to be like, well, I took that step and now I feel like I'm 4 behind. Well, and so thank you for mentioning that. And that, that's realistic. It's realistic. You're going to have those days. It is very realistic. And if you can listen to something on those days, listen to something that on YouTube, a meditation of some sort, please please go and do yourself that favor, like a meditation, a healing meditation. I did a lot of, I don't like to kind of advocate for anybody, but I did a lot of, Deepak Chopra has a healing and health meditation. So
I'll check
if you
that
could
out.
go onto YouTube and Google that, if that you're having that bad day, go and Google that for yourself, and just, you need to hear something, because that needs to lighten up. So, but I totally agree, and thank you for mentioning that. Thank you for mentioning that.
And Kathy, thank you for, I think your story is going to inspire others. So thank you for both doing the Zoom with me today, but also for all the advice and support you gave for me during that worst year or two of my life. So
10,000 steps, man. 10,000 steps.
Go us. And you were in Yellowstone. Yay. Both of us did it. So, you know, I mean, literally, I couldn't get off my couch 2 years ago. So there is.
Yeah. There you go. There you go, Jane. There you go. And thank you so much again for asking me to do this. I hope, you know, that this gets out to people that really, you're not alone. You need to know you're not alone. You're not alone. So thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank